Sam, a 12-year-old boy with a heart full of compassion, lived in a run-down, neglected neighborhood where the streets were littered with trash and broken promises. Despite the harsh reality of his surroundings, Sam was known for his kind spirit and unyielding determination to help anyone in need. His days were filled with small acts of kindness, helping elderly neighbors carry groceries, sharing his limited food with those who were hungrier, and offering a hand to anyone who looked like they could use one. Life hadn't been kind to Sam, but he had learned to make the best of it. His family's situation was dire. His mother had passed away when he was younger, and now he was the primary caregiver for his grandmother, who had been bedridden for months due to an illness that left her weak and frail. With no money for a doctor or medicine, Sam had been doing everything in his power to help, using his resourcefulness to find food, water, and anything else his grandmother needed. Sam's days often began early, with him scouring the alleys of the neighborhood for scraps of food or discarded items that might be of use. Sometimes he found things he could sell or trade, and he always did his best to make sure his grandmother was as comfortable as possible. But even in the midst of these struggles, Sam always managed to find a way to lend a helping hand to those who needed it most. It was in his nature to be kind, even when the world around him seemed to offer nothing but hardship. One afternoon, as Sam walked down the litter-filled streets, his mind preoccupied with thoughts of how he might be able to find some food for dinner and a way to bring his grandmother to a clinic, he noticed something strange. Just ahead, near the corner of the block, he saw a woman sitting on the curb. She was hunched over, her face buried in her hands, as though she were crying. The woman appeared disheveled, and Sam's heart immediately went out to her. He couldn't help but wonder what had happened and why she was all alone. As he approached, Sam noticed something that caught his attention. The woman was visibly pregnant, and her breathing seemed shallow, almost labored. Without a second thought, Sam rushed forward, knowing he couldn't just ignore her in such a state. His instinct to help kicked in, and his concern for her well-being overpowered the fear that often crept into his heart when he encountered strangers. Little did Sam know, his act of kindness was about to lead him into a life-changing situation. As Sam walked through the alley, the late afternoon sun cast long shadows across the dirty pavement, the quiet hum of the city fading into the distance. It wasn't unusual for Sam to wander through the back streets of his neighborhood, trying to avoid the busy streets that often felt suffocating, with people who never stopped to notice someone like him. But today, something caught his eye. Lying in the middle of the alley, just a few feet away from where he walked, was a young woman barely able to sit up. She looked frail and weak, her face pale, and her clothes were dirty, tattered from what seemed like days of hardship. As Sam drew closer, he could see that she was pregnant, her belly swollen with life. But her face was contorted in pain. Her breathing was shallow, and she seemed to be struggling just to stay conscious. The sight of her, abandoned and vulnerable in the cold, desolate space, struck Sam deeply. There was something so heartbreaking about it that he couldn't walk away. He had to help, even if he wasn't sure how. He knelt beside her, his heart racing with worry and concern. "Hey, are you all right?" he asked gently, his voice quiet and soothing. The woman didn't respond at first, and Sam grew more anxious. His mind raced with questions. How had she ended up here? Why was she all alone? After a few moments, the woman finally lifted her head slightly and opened her eyes, barely focusing on Sam. Her face was streaked with tears, and her lips trembled as she tried to speak. I don't know what to do, she whispered hoarsely, her voice weak and shaky. He left me. I don't know where to go. Sam's heart went out to her. He gently placed a hand on her arm, trying to reassure her. You're not alone, he said softly, though his own uncertainty made the words feel fragile. I'm going to help you. The woman's eyes filled with tears, and she looked up at him with a mixture of relief and despair. Please, I don't know where I am. I don't have anyone left. Sam could feel the gravity of her words. She wasn't just physically lost. She was emotionally and mentally exhausted too. The weight of abandonment was heavy, something he knew all too well. His own life hadn't been easy. He'd grown up in a neighborhood where survival was a daily struggle, and the people around him often seemed too busy with their own problems to help others. But this woman, Anna, had clearly been through something even worse. She had trusted someone who'd left her behind when she needed help the most. Do you have family? Someone you can call? Sam asked cautiously. Anna shook her head weakly. No, I thought I did, but he left me here. I don't know what to do. Her voice trailed off as she looked down at her hands, which were trembling from a combination of cold and fear. Sam didn't know who he was, but the implication was clear. Anna had been abandoned by someone she trusted, someone who should have been there for her. His heart ached at the thought of her being alone in the world with no one to care for her. I'm going to help you, okay? Sam reassured her, trying to sound confident, though he was unsure of what to do next. He looked around the alley. There was no one else around, and the streets were empty. Let me help you get somewhere safe. Anna gave him a faint nod, but Sam could see the exhaustion in her eyes. She needed more than just physical help. She needed someone to care, to show her that she wasn't as alone as she felt. Carefully, Sam helped her sit up, supporting her as best as he could. Let's get you somewhere safe first, he said, though the task felt overwhelming. He had no car, no money, and no real support. But he wasn't going to leave her here, not when she needed him. As they slowly made their way out of the alley, Sam's heart pounded in his chest. He didn't know exactly what the next step would be, but he knew one thing for sure. He wasn't going to let this woman suffer alone. No one deserved to feel abandoned, especially not someone carrying a child. He would do whatever it took to make sure Anna and her baby had the help they needed. Even if the world seemed dark and uncaring, Sam would be the light in her darkness. Sam could feel the weight of the situation pressing down on him. Anna, the pregnant woman, was fragile and alone. Her situation was dire, and although Sam was just a 12-year-old boy, his heart told him that he couldn't leave her to suffer any longer. He knew he didn't have the means to solve her problems, but he had to do something. Determined to help, Sam ran back to his small home, where he grabbed a blanket he had kept for chilly nights. He quickly returned to the alley where Anna was sitting, trying to keep herself warm. He draped the blanket over her shoulders carefully, making sure she was as comfortable as possible. As she wrapped herself in the blanket, her expression softened, her eyes filled with a mixture of exhaustion and gratitude. He then ran to the nearby water pump, which was the only source of clean water in the area. His legs were already tired from running, but he couldn't stop now. The streets were gritty and rough, but the pump was only a few blocks away. When he returned, he carefully handed her the cup of water, watching as she drank it gratefully. She managed a faint smile, though it didn't fully reach her eyes. "Thank you," Anna whispered, her voice barely above a breath. Sam nodded, even though he felt helpless. But Sam knew he couldn't stop here. The situation was more than he could handle alone. Anna needed more than just a blanket and water. She needed medical help. She was pregnant, and Sam wasn't sure how far along she was, but her condition seemed to be worsening. He knew he needed to find someone who could help her. "I'll be right back, Anna," Sam promised her, determination filling his voice, despite the fear he felt deep down. "Just hold on." He looked around the alley, unsure where to go for help. The neighborhood was tough, and while there were people around, not many were willing to offer help. But Sam didn't let that discourage him. He was used to finding ways to get by, and this was no different. He first ran to the small store down the block, where he knew the owner, Mr. Lopez, was usually working. But when he arrived, the store was closed. His heart sank for a moment, but then he remembered the local clinic a few streets over where Dr. Nguyen worked. Sam had been there a few times when he had cuts or bruises, and the doctor was kind, always willing to help when he could. As Sam ran toward the clinic, a couple of people on the street noticed him, probably because of the urgency in his steps. He wasn't sure if they'd offer any assistance, but as he passed by, one of the women asked, "Hey, kid, where are you running off to in such a hurry?" Sam didn't stop, but he quickly explained, "There's a woman, she's pregnant and she's really sick. I need help." Without a moment's hesitation, the woman nodded and called to a man nearby who quickly followed Sam down the street. Sam's heart raced. This could be the break he needed. They arrived at the clinic, where Dr. Nguyen was just finishing up with a patient. When Dr. Nguyen saw the desperation in Sam's eyes, he immediately stood up, his expression softening. "What's wrong, son?" "She's in trouble," Sam said, his voice trembling. "She's pregnant, and she's sick. I don't know what to do." Dr. Nguyen didn't waste any time. He nodded and instructed the receptionist to call for help, and they were out the door in moments. Sam led Dr. Nguyen back to the alley where Anna had been waiting. When the doctor saw Anna's condition, he immediately began asking questions, checking her vitals and giving Sam an approving nod for getting help. "You did the right thing, son," he said, with a look of genuine respect in his eyes. Sam felt a little relief knowing that Anna was now in good hands. While the doctor continued his work, Sam stood back, watching the whole situation unfold. Anna would be all right now, thanks to his quick thinking. He may not have had much, but he'd given everything he could, and that's all that mattered. Sam's heart raced as he ran to the small clinic nearby, a few blocks down from where Anna was resting. His hands shook with a mix of adrenaline and worry. Anna needed help, and he was doing everything he could, but he knew time was critical. He burst through the clinic door, surprising the nurse at the front desk. "Please, you have to help me," Sam pleaded, his voice shaky. "There's a woman, pregnant, and she's sick. She needs medical care right away." The nurse, a woman named Carla, paused for a moment, seeing the desperation in Sam's eyes. She'd seen this boy around the neighborhood before, and she knew him to be kind-hearted, despite the hard life he led. Carla could sense the urgency in his words. "I'll get what we need," she said, quickly grabbing some medical supplies and rushing to follow Sam. She didn't need to ask many questions. She could tell Sam wasn't someone who asked for help often. He wasn't looking for attention. He was just trying to do the right thing. The two of them quickly made their way back to the alley where Anna was waiting. Sam's steps quickened as he saw her sitting up slightly, her face showing both relief and exhaustion. Carla knelt beside Anna and immediately began assessing her condition, offering her calming words while Sam stood by, his eyes darting between the nurse and the woman who had no one else to help her. With the nurse tending to Anna, Sam's mind raced with thoughts of what else he could do. Then, an idea struck him. He knew he couldn't handle everything alone, but there was one thing he could try: get the neighbors involved. Sam ran back to his block, knocking on doors and explaining the situation to anyone who would listen. One by one, neighbors gathered, some offering blankets, others providing food, and a few bringing spare clothing for Anna. Within an hour, a collective effort formed as Sam's neighbors pitched in, making Anna's temporary space as comfortable as possible. The sense of community support was overwhelming. Despite the neighborhood's tough reputation, people were coming together for someone in need, proving that kindness could be found even in the most unexpected places. Sam watched as his neighbors helped, grateful for the connections they'd built. It wasn't much, but together they were making a difference. For the first time in a long while, Sam felt a sense of hope, not just for Anna, but for the potential of the community to come together when it mattered most. As the hours passed, the situation grew more urgent. Anna's condition worsened, and the pain in her face was undeniable. The nurse, Carla, had managed to make Anna as comfortable as possible with the limited resources they had, but it became clear that Anna was going into labor. "We need to move her to the clinic," Carla said. But before anyone could act, Anna let out a sharp cry, her body tensing in the throes of labor. The baby was coming, and there was no time to get her to the hospital. "Help me get her comfortable," Carla instructed. The neighborhood women who had gathered to assist quickly sprang into action. They cleared a space in the alley, gathering blankets and setting up a makeshift birthing area as best as they could. Sam stood by Anna's side, his heart racing, but he refused to leave her. He took her hand in his small, trembling one, offering her words of encouragement. "You're strong, Anna," he whispered, trying to hide the nervousness in his voice. "You're going to be okay. We're here with you." Anna, exhausted and in pain, looked at Sam with tear-filled eyes. "I'm scared," she whispered. Sam squeezed her hand tightly. "You're not alone. We're here, and we'll get through this." With the women supporting Anna, Carla directed Sam to gather more supplies from the makeshift clinic they had set up nearby. Sam was determined to do everything in his power to help Anna. As the minutes passed, the labor intensified, but with the steady support of Carla and the women of the neighborhood, Anna remained calm. And then, after what felt like an eternity, the baby girl was born. Anna cried out in relief as the baby was placed gently in her arms. Sam watched in awe, feeling an overwhelming sense of pride and accomplishment. Despite the chaos, despite the hardships, Anna had brought new life into the world. With a soft smile, Anna gazed down at her newborn daughter. "She's beautiful," she whispered, tears of joy mixing with the exhaustion on her face. Sam, standing by her side, offered his most reassuring smile. "You did it, Anna. You're amazing." The baby, a healthy girl, let out a small cry as she was wrapped in a blanket. The miracle of new life had come, and in that moment it felt like everything else in the world could wait. Sam, despite his young age, knew that this was a moment he would never forget. His bravery and compassion had made all the difference, and the future for Anna and her baby seemed a little brighter. After the birth, as Anna rested with her newborn daughter cradled in her arms, she looked at Sam with a deep sense of gratitude and a quiet determination in her eyes. Her exhaustion was visible, but her thoughts were clearly racing. "Sam," Anna began, her voice soft but firm, "there's something I need to tell you." Sam, now sitting on a nearby crate, leaned forward attentively, eager to listen. "I'm not just some random woman off the streets," Anna continued. I'm the daughter of Malcolm Daniels, a wealthy businessman. He's been looking for me for years." Sam blinked in surprise. "Your dad is rich?" he asked, not fully understanding the magnitude of what Anna was saying. Anna nodded. "Yes, he's one of the wealthiest men in the city. But I ran away when I was younger because of a big misunderstanding. I was scared and thought he wouldn't accept me, but I was wrong. I've been living in hiding ever since. And now, I've made the biggest mistake of my life, especially with what's happened." Tears began to well in Anna's eyes, and she gently rocked her baby in her arms. "All these years, I've been trying to escape that life. But now, I see how much I've hurt him by disappearing without a trace. I don't want my daughter to grow up like I did, feeling lost and abandoned." Sam didn't fully grasp the pain Anna was feeling, but he could see how much she regretted the years of separation from her family. "Do you want to go back?" Sam asked quietly. Anna nodded, her voice trembling. "I do. But it's not just about me. I need to make things right, for her, for my father, for everyone." Sam, even in his youth, could see that Anna had been carrying this burden for far too long. "Then we'll help you," he said simply. "You should call your dad. He might be looking for you. You've got to give him a chance." With newfound resolve, Anna pulled out an old, well-worn phone from her bag, fingers trembling as she dialed the number she hadn't called in years. Her eyes glistened with emotion as she waited for the line to connect. "Hello?" a familiar voice answered. It was her father. "Dad?" Anna whispered, her voice breaking. "It's me. Anna, I'm so sorry." There was a long pause on the other end of the line before the voice on the phone responded, shaky but filled with overwhelming relief. "Anna? Is it really you? My God, I've been searching for you. I thought I'd never find you. Where are you? I've missed you so much. I'm so sorry, Dad. I didn't mean to hurt you. I was scared and I ran away. But I want to come home. I need you." Anna's words spilled out in a rush, the years of pent-up emotion pouring out with them. There was another pause before her father spoke again, his voice calm but trembling. "I've been waiting for this day. Come home, Anna. Come home, and I'll make everything right. Bring my granddaughter home, too. I want to meet her." Anna felt a rush of emotions as she clutched the phone tightly. She looked over at Sam, who smiled softly at her, offering his silent support. "I'll be there soon, Dad." "Thank you," Anna whispered before hanging up the phone. In the days that followed, with Sam's help, Anna reunited with her father. He kept his promise, offering her and her baby a life of comfort, care, and the love they had both longed for. Anna's father, Mr. Daniels, was deeply moved by the selflessness Sam had shown in rescuing his daughter and helping her through such a difficult time. As soon as he learned of the hardships Sam and his grandmother had endured, he made a life-changing decision. "Sam," Mr. Daniels said, his voice filled with gratitude, "what you've done for my daughter, and for this baby, is something I will never forget. You didn't hesitate for a second. You showed extraordinary courage and kindness, and for that, you deserve more than just thanks." Sam was still in shock. He hadn't expected anything in return for his actions. He simply did what he thought was right. But Mr. Daniels, seeing the boy's humble nature, wanted to ensure that Sam's life and the life of his grandmother would never be the same. "I'm going to provide for you and your grandmother. You won't ever have to worry about money again," Mr. Daniels continued. "You've proven that you have a heart of gold, and I want to make sure you have the opportunities to thrive." Sam's mouth went dry. He could hardly believe what he was hearing. I don't know what to say," he stammered, overwhelmed with emotion. "You don't need to say anything," Mr. Daniels replied. "Just know that you've changed everything for my family. Now, let me change things for you." With that, Mr. Daniels handed Sam a check that would ensure Sam and Nana Ruth could live comfortably and without the worry of survival. He also set up a college fund for Sam's education, giving him the opportunity to follow his dreams and go as far as his potential would take him. But the rewards didn't stop there. Sam, empowered by his new resources, also decided to invest back into his community. Using part of the funds, he worked with local leaders to provide assistance for other children in need, ensuring that no one would ever have to face the same struggles he and Anna had experienced. Sam's story quickly became known in his neighborhood, inspiring others to lend a hand and help one another. No longer just a homeless boy, Sam was now a young leader, working toward building a better, brighter future for all. Even after Anna was safely reunited with her father, their bond remained strong. Anna would often call Sam, checking in on him and thanking him for saving her and her baby. She considered him not just her hero, but a close friend, someone who had changed her life in ways she could never truly repay. Sam, though, didn't need anything in return. He was just happy to know Anna and her baby were safe, and that he had made a difference. The financial support and opportunities that Mr. Daniels provided helped Sam start a new chapter, but it was the lessons he learned along the way about courage, compassion, and the power of kindness that truly shaped him. One afternoon, Sam walked down the familiar streets of his neighborhood, now filled with hope. He knew his life had changed, but he also knew he had inspired others to make a difference too. The community that once saw him as just another kid struggling to survive now looked to him as someone who could lead and help others. As he looked around at the people he'd helped, Sam smiled, knowing that even in the hardest of times, a simple act of kindness could change everything.